going to do today. Mixing it up, getting a little wild with it. I'm all, there's also a way to share this or something. Right there. Right there. X. Boom. That should keep that exactly what I want. All right. One of these days I'll figure out how to do this on the computer where it's just got me and the screen. But until then, I'm gonna keep doing it like I'm doing it. I'm gonna pull up the events here real quick. It was honestly an interesting little card that we had. I didn't expect a lot out of it, if I'm completely honest. Did not expect a lot out of it. It's crazy how the let's just reject all of those fucking. It's crazy how the internet is so much different. His edge, your advantage. What's that Corey Sandhagen advertisement? I almost want to click on that. They're gonna get me. I'm not gonna click on it. All right, let's start at the bottom. I guess I'm copying Guru because I'm doing it how he does it. We had Alan Carr and Connor Lossie. If I remember right, Guru was going with Connor Lossie just because of her muscles and everything. But Alan Carr was a pretty solid favorite. It was a little scrappy of a fight. Ended in round 3. Alan Carr got the win. Wasn't a whole, I don't know. There wasn't a lot I was looking for in that. I believe Alan Carr was a lot more experienced. We're going to move on to that from that one because I don't really care. I don't think anyone cared about that fight. Maybe some people did that are fans of hers. But we had Phil Rowe and KO. I actually bet on this one, and I went with KO. Phil Rowe's just had a hard time getting it going for a while now. I mean, for quite a while, Phil Rowe's been around. He's got an interesting style. Like, he could be really exciting eventually, but he's kind of running out of time. KO, I feel like, has the perspective more on his career as he's on the way up or trying to prove something, where Phil Rowe is like trying to prove he hasn't fallen off, I think, is the perspective. And I think those perspectives are pretty important when we're talking about fighting and approaching a fight. But we're going to keep going. These chicks have the same last name? No, I'm just half dyslexic. Okay. Artelene and Ruiz was a fun fucking fight. That was a freaking awesome fight. And it was a great matchup for those two. For those two fighters, that was a great matchup. So Artelene was quite a bit bigger, like in height, than Ruiz. Ruiz was coming off of, I think, 4 losses in a row. Artelene, I think, was like 10-7 or 10-8 going into that. The fight starts out, and Ruiz is just like a nasty little vicious pit bull. Just won't quit. She's like constantly nipping at it, constantly working the jab. On the stream, the way I described it is I was like, Ruiz is in a fight and Artelene is in a game. That doesn't necessarily favor one over the other, but the way they were both looking at how they were competing, that honestly was a really entertaining fight. I'm pretty sure I picked Artelene going into that. I found myself cheering for Ruiz from about a minute in. I was like, four fight losing streak. She's the underdog. I would assume, yeah, it looked like she was the underdog according to UFC.com. She was putting it to it. I mean, I gave round 1 to Ruiz. Round 2, Artelene kind of got the hang of it. But what kept going on is Ruiz was way more effective when her strikes landed, in my opinion. She had more powerful shots. She looked more vicious. I know that's kind of a broad way to word it, saying she looked more vicious. But she looked more vicious. Like, when she was in there, she was way more lean, more mean in trying to hurt her opponent, where Artelene just came off as she was trying to score points. But anyways, Ardeline ends up winning it. I think it was 2-1. That was how I ended up scoring it. But I wanted to give it to Ruiz because Ruiz was just a dog in there. I don't care if she's lost 5 in a row. If you can find someone around that same caliber, I would happily watch her again. I was really excited for this next fight. I'm horrible with enunciating names, just like Chael Sonnen. So when I get them wrong, I don't care. Caitlin Vieira versus Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont continues her streak of split decision wins. I don't know how many it's been. She's a great fighter. When she was fighting and I was watching this live, I was like, she fights like Sean Strickland, except she has calf kicks. Someone tweeted at me and was like, yeah, but Strickland can kind of defend takedowns. And I was like, ah, you have a point. So this fight, it seemed like a lot like the fight right before it. No, I wouldn't say it was so much like that. Norma needed this fight to be in a certain capacity. She needed to be standing, striking, which was crazy because it seemed like Vieira had such length on her. Like it felt like she had better reach. It felt like she would look like the better striker. When you look at their bodies, it looks like Dumont would lean on grappling. It was quite the opposite of a fight. Dumont was definitely a much more lethal striker. She was a lot quicker with her jab. She would get in and out. She was very selective and patient with her shots. She was waiting for the openings. Where it went south, or where it didn't go south because Dumont won the fight, but where it got competitive and Dumont didn't run away with this fight is when Vieira would grapple. Vieira shoots a takedown under 2 minutes in the first round, and she's losing the first round. And she just dominates the grappling. Now, Norma doesn't just lay there and die. It ends up being a pretty solid grappling exchange for about 1 minute and 30 seconds. And then the last 30 seconds, it seemed like Vieira was working a submission. I might be mixing round 1 and 2 up. But in round 2, Vieira went to the takedown a little sooner. She went in closer to halfway through the round. And definitely, I felt like won round 2. Round 3, I'm assuming Norma's coaches told her it's 1-1. Norma came out there aggressive. She wasn't anywhere near as patient as she was in rounds 1 and 2. And it was enjoyable as a fight fan to see her going for the win. I felt like Vieira would have took round 3. I felt like Vieira improved in her striking as the fight went on and got better at escaping and avoiding and slipping shots from Dumont. I felt like she needed to score a takedown in the last 2 minutes. If Vieira would have scored a takedown in the last 2 minutes, I would have gave her round 3. But she didn't even shoot one. They ended up clinched up early in the round. And I felt like Vieira won those clinching exchanges. They weren't extremely dominant, though, but she controlled the time and position. And then the last 2 minutes, they let him strike. And Dumont definitely took the edge in striking. Every time it was all striking, Dumont took the edge for an extended period of time. And Dumont wins a split decision. I was probably a little biased because I was rooting for Vieira. It wasn't a huge passion or anything. So when I scored it, I said I'm giving it 2-1 to Vieira, but she needed to get that last takedown to really solidify it. So I'm not shocked at all that Dumont won. I don't feel like it was a robbery. If I'm completely unbiased today, the day after, yeah, Dumont won that fight. So yeah. I'm pretty excited to watch Norma continue. She needs someone to help her with her grappling and takedown defense. We had another fight that I think a lot of people were actually kind of had their eye on this fight, and it was Dante Johnson, who was making his debut, I believe, in the UFC after having a good performance on the Contender Series against Cedric Dumas, who's an exotic fighter. Dumas tried his exotic shit. It had a couple moments of entertainment, but other than that, Dante Johnson, I felt like pretty much controlled the fight. Probably took a little longer than he wanted, but being for his debut in the UFC, and it was probably actually working to his favor that his debut was at the Apex and he didn't have 30,000 people screaming at him. That went well. I don't know about it's like Dumas and Nico Price. There's another one. I can't think of it. even earlier on this card, maybe. No. There's a couple guys that they're fading. They're exciting in the way that they fight, but now their age is getting up there and the sport is evolving so fast. I talk about that so much, how quickly the sport is evolving. And those type of fighters are only, this isn't a bad matchup. I don't feel like they threw Dumas to the wolves by having him fighting the guy in his debut. That's a fair matchup. But like it's challenging to find. Dumas is never going to make a run for the title at this point, and I'm not saying that out of hate or anything. It's just a reality. It's challenging to find fights that are going to be competitive anymore. I want there to be, but it just is. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I went to the gym right before this fight card started. I had to make myself go, and I ended up getting in a pretty solid workout. So when I came home, I smoked, started getting tired. I didn't even start the live stream till late. I took a nap through Timmy Kumba and Lee and through Billy Alanka and Kevin Christian. So I've got nothing. I've got nothing for it. Timmy Kumba won a decision, unanimous. Billy Elkanah got a submission in round 1. I don't know what the fuck happened in those fights. We get to the main card. And just to highlight, in the streams, or I've been doing these, what do you call them? Pick'ems. Like I post the card, people circle the winner. Someone gets a perfect card, they win a gift card. A couple things I didn't expect on this. Well, first I want to say, I just do it for fun. Like, I just do it for fun. It's fun to pick fights. It's fun to have something to play for. But damn, people get a free opportunity, and some people just, like, can't follow the basic rules. Like, I'm like, you got to at least follow the page. So that, in my logic, in that, I guess it gives my page some growth. But if you win, I have to be able to get a hold of you, and I can't if you're not following the fucking page. So it's like, you're just... I didn't run into that this week, I don't believe, but last week I ran into it. And it's like, I'm not going to keep reminding people. I'm just going to start ignoring stuff. And then it's like I had 2 people that made it through the prelims with the perfect thing, and one was asking if he won the whole thing. And it's like, that's half the card. And then today he was like, oh, it's not the last one with the best card. It's a little off-putting when I'm doing it for, I don't want to call it charity because it's just a giveaway. But like when you get, I don't know. Don't try to force yourself to get a free handout. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit weird. But it is what it is. I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I want to make it fun. Like say I want to grow the amount of people doing. Like at times I've given away the prize just because I wanted to. I'm not going to do that every week, and I'm not going to be held to that expectation. I'm doing it for fun and for growth. Like, if you don't like it, don't participate. It's that simple. All right. Next fight night, or next fight. We made it to the main card of UFC Vegas 110. It was Cody Durden and Alan Nascimento. Cody Durden took this fight on 10 days' notice, or maybe 2 weeks' notice, something like that. Cody Durden, I don't know if he still is. I don't follow him anymore, but he used to be pretty active on the MMA Twitter scene, so he was kind of a fan favorite on this online community. I've kind of always went against Cody Durden in his fights. It is what it is. I'm not a hater of him. I did the opposite in this one. I did place a bet on Cody Durden, and I ended up losing. Cody Durden ends up losing the fight. But the way I looked at the fight, Cody Durden just likes fighting. He just likes fighting. He's fighting all the time. He was already in camp for a fight. Allen, it seems like, is trying to take a very smart approach to his career in the sense of choosing his opponents and timing and when he competes and only competing once a year. And he had, I think, 2 years off prior to this. I just saw that, and I was like, Durden's going to be so much more aggressive. And that's exactly what it was. Durden came out and won round 1, just walking Allen down. Allen's constantly on retreat, catching stuff. Durden, I don't know if Durden shot a takedown or if Durden just kind of ducked, but Allen ends up getting him in a choke, like a similar to a Darce. I don't remember exactly what choke it was, and then ends up getting the finish, and it takes a minute to get the finish. But I was proud of Cody's performance. Cody didn't have anything to hang his hat on or not be proud of. You know what I mean? Like, I honestly thought that was a great fight for Cody. I feel like even though it was a loss, it's going to help his career. He took it on short notice and he went out there and performed so well. He just got caught. It is what it is. Next, we had Charles Raddick and Daniel Frunza. There were a lot of us in the community that were thinking Frunza was going to pull something out here. I didn't necessarily jump on board with that, but I knew it was possible. I leaned towards this fight being on the ground. I remember that. I just remember thinking this fight's going to end up on the ground. If I remember right, I think Frunza, most of his fights, I might be mixing him and Deer up. But anyways, Raddick came out and just dominated for all 3 rounds. He ends up getting a finish with a submission, but Raddick's been off for a while. I don't remember if it was an injury or what, but Raddick just showed up and reminded everyone why he had the hype that he had. That was an amazing performance by Raddick. Very dominant on the ground. Very dominant throughout the entire fight. Let me see if it'll show me some stats on this one. Yeah. 163 total strikes to 68. Or signature strikes 31-6. Significant, not signature, sorry. We're going to move on. Yadier. Yadier was one I had a pick on. Pretty sure he leaned on submissions on his thing, and he ended up with a submission. Somebody I know locally, and I don't remember who it was, but they messaged me, and they asked about this fight. And this is a great reason why I don't fuck with prop bets. One, I don't fuck with them because my local casino doesn't offer them. Like, they don't do prop bets. Like, they don't do, will this fighter get over so many punches, or will he do so many takedowns? But this guy hit me up and was like, Yadier over 0.5 on takedowns. And I literally told him, I was like, yeah, I'm really confident that's going to happen. The only way I don't see him getting it is if Yadier pulls guard. The fight ended at round 1, 2 minutes into the fight, like 2.5, what is that, 2 minutes and 19 seconds? No, that'd be 1 minute and 19 seconds into round 1. It says the time at 3:41, so I think that's the time remaining in the round, right? But Isaac ends up shooting a takedown. Yadier sprawls. It goes on for about 10 or 20 seconds. Like the sprawling there takes a minute, but it ends up, Yadier ends up in like a reverse north-south. No, it's not north-south. He ends up with Isaac down on his knees, and Yadier just spins around and takes the back. That doesn't register as a takedown, I don't believe. So I think my friend lost the bet, but Yadier ends up getting the submission from that spot. He ends up taking the back and getting a choke. Pretty impressive. Yadier, I think, is someone that's I think he's going to have an exciting time in the UFC in the next 2 years. I imagine he's going to try to stay active. Our next fight was, the main card really had some interesting matchups. They just weren't huge names. You know what I mean? But it had Jeremiah Wells and Thiemba Garimbo, which is an awesome fighting name. Garimbo is just an awesome fighting name. And he has an awesome story. Him and Onama, I think, both have awesome stories. But Jeremiah Wells ends up winning by decision. Gimba comes out very aggressive and pretty dominant in round 1. He comes out with striking, and then he presses the grappling, which surprised most people. Once Wells got his wits about him, Wells sort of took over the fight. He definitely ran away with it in round 3. It is what it is. It was a good fight and a good matchup, to be honest. It was a pretty close fight until Wells started pulling away in round 3. The most exciting fight of the night, the fight I have the most to say about, is the co-main event. And it was in the heavyweight division, who is usually the division that I complain the most about that I give the most hate to. We had Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Ante. They're all saying his name differently, but I say Delija, and that's how I'm going to continue fucking saying it. Ante comes out much more aggressive. Before we even... Ante is Tom Aspinall's training partner. Ante recently won his first UFC fight, and Tom Aspinall said if Ante got a shot at the heavyweight title, he would just vacate the belt because they're such good friends. Ante's never going to get a shot at the heavyweight title. He's not that good. But Ante, after Tom Aspinall got poked in the eye defending his heavyweight title on an $80 pay-per-view that many of us paid for, and then pretends that he can no longer open his eye, even though it was just open, and then pretends that he can't see, but refuses time to recover to allow the possibility to open his eye, and refuses the test from the doctor to see if he can truly, in fact, see. And then because he refuses time and refuses recovery and says he can't see, ends the fight in a no contest, then proceeds to get sent to the hospital and has 3 more doctors tell him that his eye is fine. And is now trying to throw shade or hate or blame at Ciryl Gane when he just bitched out on what's supposed to be the tough guy's sport. His training partner, Ante, begins the fight very aggressive. It looks like the fight's going to lean in Ante's favor at the beginning. He comes out aggressive, and Ante was very vocal after Tom Aspinall's fight and said he had 33 MMA fights and he's never poked anyone in the eye. Ante comes out very aggressive with 1s and 2s down the pipe. Some are landing, some aren't. They're not necessarily all the most devastating landing strikes. He landed a couple. He ends up with Waldo back against the cage. Ante starts teeing off, throwing everything he has, throwing it all. Right before Ante started teeing off, Waldo just made a weird movement. He put his hand out like this and then bent over and almost cowered and then put the other hand like this and never fought back. The referee did not intervene. I think the referee said, fight back. The referee then steps in because Waldo is not fighting back and ends the fight, thus making Ante the winner. Waldo immediately looks up and shows damage to his eye and tells the referee he poked me in the eye. Ante, who has had 33 fights and has claimed to have never poked anyone in the eye. And anyone who pokes someone in the eye shouldn't be allowed in the sport. And Tom Aspinall's time was completely wasted because he spent all this time training just to go out there and get poked in the eye. Waldo accuses Ante of poking him in the eye. I think Mark Smith was the referee. I'm not positive, but Herb Dean was there. They go to the replay. Herb Dean's not going to allow this bullshit to happen. Everyone's in the cage. There's 50 people in the cage. The fight's over. They've got the stool. They've got the ice. They've got the cut man. They've got everyone. They've got reporters. They've got the commission. They've got security. There's 50 people walking around in the cage. The fight's over. They see on the replay. Ante poked Waldo in the eye. Directly. Let his hand out with his fingers like this. Directly. Poked Ante right in the fucking eye. So they start saying, we are in recovery time right now. There's an active timer going right now. We don't ever see the active timer, but there's an active timer going. When they decide it's been 5 minutes, they ask Waldo if he's fit to continue. And Waldo says, hell yeah, I'm fit to continue. I'm not a bitch like Tom Aspinall. I'm not running from this fucking fight. I want to make some fucking money. This is my job. I'm a professional. He says, hell yeah, I'm going to fight. So they continue the fight. Waldo walks across the cage. Ante meets him in the middle. Ante starts swinging for the fences, trying to take advantage of the condition he just caused by cheating. Ante gets knocked the fuck out. Knocked the fuck out. Mr. I don't poke people in the eye. Who just poked someone in the eye? Mr. Teammate of a guy who got poked in the eye and quit. Didn't even try to recover. Ante got the tee off on Waldo for 15 more seconds while Waldo couldn't see and didn't fight back. And it was so bad, a referee stopped him to say, Waldo lost the fight. Waldo came back and knocked his ass out. Waldo gets a skyrocket to the top of the heavyweight division. Ante gets cut. That's how it should be. Tom Aspinall should have 30 days to defend his belt or fucking cut him. Let him go box. Let him and Daddy go box. That ain't his dad either. Guru's right about that. The fucking Tommy Fury or whoever the fuck, the Fury dude is probably Aspinall's dad. Anyways, main event, Steve Garcia, David Onoma. I think a lot of people were hyped on Steve Garcia. I thought this was going to be a good matchup. I thought this was going to be back and forth. It played out quick. Round one, Steve Garcia got the finish. David Onama never got going. David Onama looked a lot like, who was that earlier? Jeremiah Wells in the beginning of the fight. It looked like he needed some time to get going. And Steve Garcia's pressure and just relentlessness, it wasn't even overwhelming. It's just the style that he fights was too much for David to ever really get his footing. That style that David had might have cost him the fight in the sense of he got dropped twice. But I feel like the first drop, he might have actually just kind of tripped or something. But at the end, when he actually gets finished and he's down on all fours, right as the referee's going to step in, he spins and grabs the leg. Like he makes a very fast, educated, aware movement that was high-level grappling to recover his position as the ref's stepping in. I understand why the ref stepped in. I don't necessarily think it's an early stoppage from the ref's point of view and from how you have to look at the fight as a sport. But I do think David Onama was aware of what was going on. He just wasn't doing a great job of actively defending himself. But that's how it goes, you know. Anyways, this is my recap. I don't know if I'm going to do these every week. I don't know. I felt like doing something. I'm bored on a Sunday morning. Big time players make big time plays. We do big things every round. Y'all have a good one.